Okay, so welcome. I want to chat just for 1 sec about, again, our mission statement, kind of a refresher reminder that our mission in Convention Estates, Indiana, is to build a Hoosier grassroots community of citizens and legislators dedicated to the constitutional concept of self-governance. And that's everything we do is aimed toward helping to achieve that goal. And we move into the next item. I just wanted to run a quick check. I see the agenda that I posted. I'm trying to share that. Can anybody see it?
Better always get your technical sheet.
I put it on the other screen. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Well, just a quick check with everybody. I ordered business cards for myself and district captains on mine came today. Did anybody else get them?
This is that. I got mine today.
Okay. Does it look something like that?
I'm having a tough time understanding you, Gary. Your speech is really garbled for some reason.
Okay. I'm going to ask that everybody mute themselves unless they are talking. Sometimes we get a lot of feedback, makes it hard to hear. Can you guys hear better now?
I can.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Much better.
Okay, good. The other thing we can do if you want to, make a comment is just use the little chat window to chat. So that's what the new business cards look like. Hopefully, if I got mine and Ed got his, the rest of you guys will be getting business cards soon that we ordered for. If you didn't get any and you want some, let me know. I'll either tell you how or maybe I can order them for you. That seemed to work pretty well once we got the order sent in, that they got them sent out. And I'm not sure, they did not bill me for these, and I'm thinking that if you order business cards that say Convention of States Action rather than Convention of States, that they will cover the cost. I'm not certain of that, but that's kind of what it looks like to me. So, anyway. Next item on the agenda, I want to talk to you about is what I mentioned in the notice I sent out for this meeting, is that you can use summer to help save America. And the best thing that we can do during the summer is have legislator meetings. And one of the reasons for this is that we have found out around the country that when you win in the legislature during the session, it's really because all the groundwork was done primarily during the summer and the fall, but mostly the summer, when legislators have more time for meetings. And having legislator meetings during the summer is also a way of showing that we are well organized. It's a way of showing that we are committed to our cause. And meetings during the summer, when the legislature is not in session, are actually more valuable than meetings during the legislative session. And one of the things that happens during the legislative session is, in most states, there are going to be dozens or maybe hundreds of lobbyists in town along with the legislators, and they're all competing for their attention and their time. And so any message you try to convey then kind of gets diluted, kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and it's in the mix of a lot of other messages that people may be giving. So meeting in the summertime is really a great time to have legislator meetings. And in fact, Vicki Mooring down in District 50 had one a couple weeks ago. Vicki, would you like to talk about that meeting a little bit? I think you're on here. If you want to unmute, and you can, if you have your video camera, you could turn that on as well. There we go. So Vicki, how did you set up the meeting?
I actually called Indianapolis to his office and talked to his gal down there, and I set it up through her.
Okay.
I let him pick the spot and the time and everything, so it would be at his convenience. And we met at Nick's in Huntington, and we spent about an hour and a half talking. The questions that I had for him, he told me he thought were already settled in the resolution. So Paul sent me copies of the resolution, and you and I had talked about that today. I think that most of the stuff in his mind, in Representative Leonard's mind, is already done.
Okay. Now, the place where you met Vicki, was that that's just a coffee shop, is that right?
Yes.
And that was the place that he picked?
Yes.
And was this do you feel like this was a good, friendly meeting?
He made me feel very relaxed. What I can say to other people that haven't done it is these legislatures are just people, so they're just like talking to each other. He was very, very nice and forthcoming, and he made it really easy to talk to me. And I had my little script of all the things I wanted to talk to him about, and it was just real easy to do. It made me feel very comfortable.
Okay, great. Did it seem like he would be open to maybe meeting again and talking about things again?
Yes, and he told me that he would call his administrative assistant in Indianapolis to be open with me, whatever I needed from her. All I had to do was call her and ask her. Unfortunately, every time I call down there, she's not there. So he also gave me his personal cell phone number if I ever needed anything that I could call him, but I don't feel real comfortable doing that while he's on vacation. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can do that. I can call him direct to set up a meeting.
Okay, good. If you don't mind, I'll just if anybody else has a question they would like to ask Vicki, feel free to pop that up in the chat or even unmute yourself and ask the question. I think the important thing to take away from this is that it's likely to be a positive thing for you when you have a meeting. Most legislators are anxious to meet with people who are interested enough in what they do to want to meet with them. Anybody else have some thoughts or questions about legislator meetings?
Yeah, it's George. Yeah, getting hold of the state people, I think, is a lot different than trying to get hold of somebody that's, centered out in D.C. or something. The local folks seem to be really open to the people contacting them. I haven't ever heard of anybody having a real problem with it. They may not agree with what we're doing or something, but they've always been willing to meet at least. So it's just not the same as trying to get hold of like banks or people like that. So
yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't real open to the term limits. He feels that a minimum of 4 terms, or he won't vote for it. So that's kind of where he's at.
Yeah, on that particular issue of term limits, he was not necessarily with a lot of people on that. But the good thing is that you get the opportunity to kind of get face-to-face with this person and begin building that relationship. And it's important to, I mean, if he gives you his cell phone number or she gives a cell phone number, if you have a female legislator, if they're willing to give you their cell phone number, they're definitely letting you know that they're open to talking again, maybe meeting again. And during this summer, we don't necessarily accomplish anything legislatively because they're not in session and they can't, hold votes. But we can build relationships with legislators, let them know who we are and what we're about, and then when this legislature is in session, if we contact them, you contact them, they're going to be, oh yeah, I know that person, I met with them, and they'll know exactly what we're about. And so really the summer is the time for us to be doing this.
Gary, can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Larry Hudson. I'm in Region 5.
Right.
And my question is, I'm ready to be my senator and representative for the second time, so it's a second go-around. Of course, we're a past state, and I'm fortunate enough to have 2 legislators that are both very strong supporters. So when I meet a second time, I guess I feel like I really need to have something to talk about. I need something new to talk about. They're already on my team, so to speak, or our team. So I'm wanting, I know we've got, I think I've talked to Paul Phillips a time or two, and we're looking at the delegate law, if you will. And Victoria said an hour and a half. I don't know what I could do with an hour and a half. I think I would run out of ideas.
Well, one of the things is that the legislator, if he is willing to talk and spend time with you, just getting acquainted, that's great. Find out, another thing you can do is find out about what are they interested in, what are their legislative priorities. If you ask them, what is their legislative priority for the next session, more than likely they're going to tell you what they are passionate about. And whether you agree with them or not doesn't matter, but it gives them an opportunity to talk about that and for you to get a better understanding of who they are and the kinds of things that they care about. And that can go a long way in the next session to us just understanding who they are, and maybe if it's something we want to help them with. We mean not as an organization, but we personally might want to help them. We might want to set up a meeting with some of our supporters and give them the opportunity to talk about what's important to them, as well as give us the chance to maybe give them a little pitch about Convention of States. And the big thing for Convention of States is making changes to that delegate selection law. We think it's important that some changes be considered there. One is about the number of delegates, and the second just is generally the topic of what direction will the Indiana legislature give to our delegates. So that question that Vicky's state representative brought up about term limits, he thinks that they should be at least 4 terms. Well, that's fine, that's great, but that's something that the whole legislature of Indiana needs to talk about. Do we want our delegates to that convention to only support something that involves, a limit of 4 terms? And that's not our call, and that's not, any one legislator's call. That's up to the whole legislature, but it's something they should be thinking about, and hopefully, talk to them about the pros and cons. What do they think the pros and cons are of term limits? And give them our point of view, but be willing to listen to their point of view, because that's what is going to have to happen at the state legislature and ultimately at the convention. Is people got to talk these things out and make decisions to figure out, what should be supported for that particular topic. And so, I encourage you to spend some time and give and take with your legislator, not just about convention states, but about other things that they think are important, because I'm sure they have other things that they think they want to get accomplished. Does that make sense?
Yes. I know we talked a little bit about the faithful delegate law and the number, and I'd like to maybe get a couple of laymen on that as well as legislators.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that they would consider an outsider government to be able to sit in on that. And so, yeah, I guess it's always been, at least in my mind, difficult because we're a past state, and so the heavy lifting, has been accomplished, so to speak. And so now it's just making sure we don't get into a rescission process or something like that.
Right.
And fortunately, my two legislators haven't changed, and they're both strongly supportive.
Yeah, and that's really good. The thing we have to recognize is there are a fair number of new legislators who were not in the House or the Senate when we passed. And so one of the things we want to do with those new people is find out where they stand, educate them, get an understanding of what their views are about the convention, and try to win them into our camp so that they will be supporters and so that they will oppose any rescission. But in any case, if they're a supporter, I just say it's great to get them thinking about that faithful delegate law, and it's great to get them better acquainted with us so we know we're on, first name basis, friendly terms. We can call them and chat with them about it, and they'll know we support them not just on convention of states, but that we're supportive of them as our legislator, and we want to see them succeed in what they want to accomplish. Even though our organization may not be supporting them, we personally can be supportive of them in those things. Other thoughts, questions, comments?
Yeah, this is Gary Spillman. Can you hear me?
Yep, got you, Gary. Thanks for joining.
Sure, no problem. I did, I have finished the third module. I know George has contacted me to do the fourth module. I did contact Susan Glick. Not directly. I called her, I assume, her male assistant.
Yeah.
I called them, left them a voicemail, and also emailed them. So hopefully I'll hear back from him shortly, and then try to set up a meet and greet and
good.
Introduce myself more than anything. So I know George is on the line. George texted me earlier today. Just want to let him know that, yeah, we can set up that fourth module, and I could do that.
Drew, I like your plant growing behind you there. Yeah. Hey, I'd kind of like to go to, I've met with Sue a few different times, and I'd kind of like to go with you whenever you set that up.
Sure.
I'd like to introduce you in a face-to-face, because she knows me, so I could like to introduce you as the district captain. She knows me as I guess she knows me as the district captain 51. Right. And you're in 52, right? Yeah.
No, I'm in 82.
82, yeah.
I hope so, because that's what I told him.
Yeah, it's 82.
All right.
All right. I'll call you after this thing's over, and we'll set up a time for Mod 4.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really good because, as you probably know, Sue Glick was not a supporter of our resolution. So it's going to be really good to just try to build that relationship with her and win her over. And one of the things that are all around the country that legislators have spoken to convention of states, state organizers all over, and one of the things they have said over and over is that we are the nicest people that they deal with. And we want to continue that track record. Even though people disagree with us, we want to be cordial and friendly and nice to them, whether they're on our side or not, because in the long run, that's how we're going to win people over. And even if we don't, we're going to have their respect and their admiration for the fact that we're persistent and the fact that we, stick with our work even with people who disagree with us. Other comments, questions about legislator meetings? Don't hear any. I want to move on to the next topic, which I don't know if you can see the agenda or not, but I got the Huntington County Fair. And Vicki and I have kind of started filling in a few slots for volunteering. And what we want to do is I'm going to ask each of you that are, in the Fort Wayne area, Huntington area, to see if you have any volunteers. Give you a good excuse to call your volunteers and just say, hey, we've got Huntington County Fair. We're going to have a booth there, and invite them to sign up to spend a couple hours at the fair talking to people. People said they would volunteer, and it's a good time to ask them to step up and commit to a couple hours. There's a number of days there. If we really have a lot of people, we might also try and get a booth at the Allen County Fair. We talked about this, and we kind of decided we probably should wait and do one fair here first to see how that goes. But if you guys can find the volunteers, people that are interested, by the end of this week, I'll go in and make an application to get funding for the Allen County Fair as well. I think most of you probably have 20 or so people in your district who checked the little box and said they would volunteer. So no reason not to contact them by phone, by email, by text, whatever, and see if they're willing to step up and take a couple hours. It can be either over the weekend, one of the weekend days, or during the week, because there are going to be thousands of people at these fairs, and so those are thousands of opportunities to get more signatures on our petition and educate people and build support for the cause.
Hey, Gary?
Yes.
Do you have any word on, if you're working a table, if you got to pay to get in, or parking or anything like that?
Vicki, do you know about parking down in Huntington County?
They're going to cost, or we're going to have to pay to get in, or how the passes work and stuff.
Depends on how you go in. Can you hear me? No?
Barely. I could hear you a little bit, Vicki. Go ahead. I will, if you're not speaking, go ahead and mute yourself. I know in Allen County Fair, went over to the fairgrounds there, and they have a large, public parking area that's free. I think admission to the fair, you do have to pay for that, but I would need to ask them about if we're paying for a booth, and we would pay a lot for a booth in Allen County particularly. I assume you get a certain number of passes for your people to get into the fair without paying, but we'll check on that. And I've got this spreadsheet. I'll send that out to everybody, and I'll put a note on there about the admission and parking and so forth once we get that nailed down. Anybody else have questions or comments about the fair?
Gary, Larry Hudson.
Yep.
We're doing a county fair in Hamilton County. Melba Kaiser, she's a district captain in 29, and I'm in 24. So we're set on either side of Noblesville, which is where this fair is held. We've been looking for volunteers. We're doing a 3-day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, possibility of a Sunday. And I think both Melba and I have emailed and called, and we've come up with basically 13 volunteers. We've divided our days into 3-hour segments, so we're still spread pretty thin.
Okay.
I am going to ask about parking. Now, I hadn't thought about that, and if there are passes that we can get for people if available, as I believe we have the booth, the electricity, so it's just a matter of asking those questions. That'll help us. And I want to thank, I think Ed Faraguy's on. I wanted to thank him publicly. I know he's in your region. He has helped me immensely. I'm working on a banner. I picked the banner up, the Convention of States banner, and then I've had one made. I'm supposed to get it here Friday, I think.
Good.
To kind of supplement it, and he's given me the directions on. We put together that PVC banner holder, so we're going to put the table together much like it had it. I think it was a gun show that they did. So we're working on a county fair as well in Hamilton.
Okay, great. We have there's a short video that I made about doing booths and shows. It's just about 5 minutes, but if you're interested in that, I can send you a link for it too, Larry.
I think I've already viewed it.
Okay.
I believe I have, Gary. Okay. In fact, I looked at it before I called Ed.
Okay.
Because I think he was in it, wasn't he?
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
His picture was in there. So yeah, that's good. So you guys found 13 volunteers within your 2 districts. That's good. And I think up around Fort Wayne, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to do the same thing. Just it's a matter of asking people. I don't know what you guys did. How did you contact people, Larry, to ask them? Did you phone call them or email them?
I went with the blast email to everybody in my district. I got 5 volunteers out of that. And then I went to just my volunteers, and I got 1.
Okay.
So I haven't called, but Melba, I think, has done both a blast email and a phone call follow-up. And we both have around 5 volunteers each, and then counting ourselves. And I think she's got a couple of folks, Diane Gomez, and a couple of other folks that are at the national level that are locally here, and they're going to help.
Okay, great. Well, I think that gives you an idea, what the potential is out there. That if each of you district captains will make some calls and maybe send out an email blast, we can get volunteers. But we've got to work at it. And it's about a month away now. Now would be a great time to start asking for volunteers, asking people to put it on their calendar. The closer you get to the date, the harder it's going to be to get people who, have free day on their calendar. So now's really the time to start pushing that effort. And I think Larry mentioned they're doing 3-hour segments. We're pretty flexible. I put it at 2. But if people are driving a ways, they might want to do, more than 2 hours and just do it in one day or something rather than, 2 hours this day and 2 hours another and so forth. So we can be flexible about that, but we do want to get people plugged in on the calendar. And if somebody says they'll volunteer, make sure you got their contact information and you follow up with reminders at least twice. To make sure that they know, they don't forget it, miss the date, or something like that.
I got a question.
Okay.
Again, this is George. How are you all dealing, or what do you suggest telling a volunteer that says, "Man, I don't really know anything to talk about anything, but I guess I can help at the table." But what do you tell people that think they don't have any knowledge of COS and Article 5 and stuff?
Well, I would tell them, number one, come to the booth and we'll educate them. We can take a little time and, give them a handout and whether it's the Palm card, give them a copy of Article 5, and just say, you know, the basic thing, you know, here are the basics that they need to talk about. Everybody understands government's too big and tries to do too much. Spending is out of control. About 80%, I think, of the public supports term limits. All they have to do is talk to people about, do you think we need term limits? If people say yes, then they can say, hey, sign this petition. In other words, they don't have to have a huge amount of knowledge. And if somebody really has a lot of questions, you can either refer them to somebody that's more knowledgeable, or you can just say, you know what, if you go to the website, you can get all those questions answered. So in other words, we don't have to be experts. We have to have passion that we want to convince people that this is something important. And if we have that passion, you know, we're going to get those people who will say, okay, I'll go home and I'll go to the website, I'll look it up. We just need to know the basics, and a person just needs to know a few really basic things in order to understand, you know, what we're doing. And the fact that Indiana is already a passed state, I think, makes it a little easier. That you know, we are trying to build our grassroots and get more people informed and on board with us. Even though we're a passed state, you know, the legislature's on board. But we need to build our grassroots to keep this movement spreading and growing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we told our volunteers that there would always be somebody there who had several years of COS experience or were in a leadership position, and they would never find themselves by themselves at the table.
Yeah, that's good. Any other thoughts about that? Okay, well, it's about 8:30. I just want to kick out a question. What do you guys have planned? What do you have planned for the next couple months? Anybody, you know, got it on the docket? Anybody else have it on their docket to call their state rep or their state senator? That's probably the most important thing you can be doing. And we have, I think, on the spreadsheet, you should have their Indiana phone number, their Indianapolis phone number. If you don't know their local number, that's fine. Just call that Indianapolis number. They all have administrative assistants. Typically, several legislators share one assistant. And, you know, they've got their numbers. They'll get in touch with them and let them know that you want to meet with them, and they'll contact you. So you don't have to have, you know, like their home address, home phone number, anything like that. Just go to that Indiana House or Senate main phone number, call them, and ask for their legislative assistant, and you can make that connection. Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
Just to emphasize the idea of working with the assistants, because you never really get through right to the person right away. The interns and the legislative assistants, you got to go through them. So you want to be on their good side. Normally not a problem anyway, but you know, just keep in mind that you don't want to be angry with them and you don't want to tick them off. They deal with a lot of people all the time, and they can not listen to your call as easily as listen to it. They got a lot to do, so be nice.
Yeah, and legislative assistants can help us in other ways. The legislative assistant they can maybe tell you who's the closest friend to your legislator. Who do they hang out with when they're in Indianapolis? And maybe it's somebody who's also a supporter, maybe it's somebody who's not. But knowing their connections in Indianapolis as well as around the state, know the issues that they're passionate about. Their legislative assistant is really an invaluable resource. And I've talked about building a relationship with the legislator, but it can also be very valuable to us to build a relationship with their legislative assistant, because down the road, they can help us out when if the legislature's in session and people are hard to get in touch with, that legislative assistant is the one that can make sure that your message is a priority message that gets through and gets the attention of the legislator. Let's go around the horn. Anybody, Ed, anything else you'd like to add?
One of the things that is a potential problem here, if we attempt to do both Huntington and Allen County, we're going to be strapped for resources. We don't have two sets of banners, two sets of pipe supports, and so forth. So that's one thing to consider. Secondly, I haven't discussed it yet with Vicki. I don't know whether we'll be using my pop-up canopy, which is advertised as 10 by 10, but overhead it's really 8 by 8. But it occurred to me this evening I can't set up the pipe banner holder in its entirety and put it on top of the table. It just won't fit. So we'll probably be reduced to using the lower half of the pipe support on the table and then putting a banner down in front of the table like we did at the gun show last October. And I'm okay with that. I mean, we can still display what we've got, but more importantly, we would need more resources to handle both polls this summer.
Okay.
Hey, Ed, couldn't you put the banner stuff? They don't have to be on the table. They can like be leaning against the outside of your canopy or something, or attach one of the legs or something. So
well, if you're going to have it tied down, and I mean well, with some of the wind that we've had here lately, I wouldn't trust that. We're looking at a safety issue here. And in fact, if I'm going to use my canopy, the first thing I got to do is buy some concrete blocks and make some modifications to the legs just to make sure that won't go away.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Because we definitely, we do have a couple of banners around here, but that's a good possibility that if we're trying to do two things at the same time, we're gonna run into a challenge logistically there as well as maybe with people. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Gary Spielman, any other thoughts or comments you want to plug in?
No, not this time. Should I be contacting Banks or Young?
No, not really. Because really the federal government doesn't have anything to do with this other than once we get the 34 states, what they have to do is basically mandated by Article 5. I mean, you can contact them and have a chat with them about it, but there's really not anything for them to do at this point in time.
Okay, all right. I just want to be sure. So I'll just focus on Glick then.
Yep. Any other comments from you, Larry or Vicki?
Nothing from me. I'm planning on just one. I guess I'd ask you or Ed. I think one table. We have a 10 by 10 spot, and I'm assuming just one 8-foot table is probably all the room that we can. Unless you put them to back or something like that. One table would be sufficient, wouldn't it?
Probably so, unless you put them like in an L shape or something like that, one crossways and one, across the front or something like that. Kind of have to go with it and see how, how much space you've got and what the size of your tables are. Well, unless anybody else has something they want to add, I want to thank everybody for getting on tonight. I feel like this has been a productive discussion, and look forward to having you on next month.
Yeah, again, this is George. Yeah, not meaning to come down hard on the aides and the interns and stuff. they gotta be there, because we all know that there's some crazy people out there, and they call their legislatures and complain about this and that and the other thing, and so they do serve a purpose. They need to be there, and there's didn't mean to put out the idea that there'd be any problem with them or really potential for it. They're very nice.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will hopefully we'll see you again next month. I'm going to end the recording now.
Nope.